Going to pull the engine out of this van tonight or tomorrow. It's got too many problems beyond the suspension. Weird stuff like screws through the rain rail. Really disgusting. And oh my word, I've started to take it apart because it's just too disgusting to recover. Engine runs. It drove here from Atlanta, so I'm gonna pull that out and save it. Treasures. We call this a treasure van because it keeps turning up treasures like that. Well, not so much a treasure. They done cut the tip off for some reason. That's cut. That didn't break. Weird. No idea what's going on there. Somebody did some welding up there. Got too close to something. It's pretty badly rusted. So, yeah, we're not trying to save this van. Might save these still. They're hard to come by. So step one, disconnect the battery. In this case, I've taken it all the way out. At the back of the transmission, there are 4 bolts. This is a replacement drive shaft, serviceable, but it's a size 15 millimeter bolt there. We're going to take 4 of those off. And then under here for the transmission mount, those are 16 millimeter. We're going to take those nuts off. And come up here and disconnect the electrical. And over here on the other side, pop the linkage off. Just gonna get a little lever in here like so. Pop, pop. Comes off. Same thing back here. Easy peasy. Then there is a triangle brace here on the exhaust. I've gone ahead and dropped off 2 bolts on the block, 2 bolts on the exhaust. Boom, boom, falls down. So that's it for the underside for right now. So we're going to come up on top and release the turbo. We won't need many specialty tools for this, but one thing we do need is an engine hoist. You can pick that up on Craigslist or Marketplace for 150 bucks anywhere, everywhere, any day. They're all over the place. And if you're doing it in the backyard like I am here, a couple sheets of old plywood to roll it around on is going to be useful, because once you get the weight of the engine on there, those little wheels aren't going to roll in the sand. Now this whole air filter box and channel is going to be in the way sooner or later, so we're going to take that all down. I recommend a super long 1/4 inch driver and a 10 millimeter socket. It's going to get up there and take, there's about 6 nuts rather, we're going to pull down, and this will all just drop out of the way. All right, so these bolts are, there's one right here, there's one right there, there's one way up behind it. There's another one up here. And then let's see, disconnect the fan motor, pull the resistor out, and then things will kind of wiggle down. All right, now we've still got wire connected here for the recirculate flap. So we're going to disconnect the vacuum hose, disconnect the electrical, little wire clip here that pulls down the bottom, and then that'll slide out. Yeah, that little wire clip. Then we go ahead and push that back on there now so it doesn't get lost. It'll just push on later without any problem. Okay, so with that out of the way, I've moved on to the turbo hoses, disconnected from the intercooler and the MAF, and a radiator hose caught most of my antifreeze down there in a bucket. So we're about ready to, we're gonna loosen that motor mount down there and then move on to the other side of the engine. As far as tools, we've used a 6mm and an 8mm socket for removing hose clamps. Screwdriver also works. And we're about to get busy with a T20 and remove the headlights and the trim. Usually either a T30 or a 10mm bolt will be in here. 10mm bolt there, 10mm on the battery, 10mm here. Usually that's a plastic plug though, don't know what that's doing in there. I'm gonna pull all of this off. I believe it's a 45mm up here and another one down in there. So we're gonna pull all that off. These just pry off with a little screwdriver and make everything pretty. Digging this far in and taking the engine out, you probably already know this, but there are a couple of screws hiding up in here. In my case today, they are T20s. You just gotta loosen them up and then the grill will lift off of it. See how the screw sits in there. It's debatable if the headlights really need to come out to take the engine out, but you got to get at this bolt back here. Can cut this away, but I don't want to go hacking up things that don't need to be hacked up. It's easier to just take the bolts out, screws out, remove the headlight. Bumper too, you can get away without it, but it's just easier to get at stuff if we pull the bumper out. 2 bolts, 13mm. This one's got some botch job going on already, so we'll look at that while it's apart. When you get the 4 screws out that hold this big plate on, just turn it over, and it's like a bicycle cable here. We're gonna pull it out. Oops. Pull the cable out, the sheathing, so we can slip it over, wiggle it in there, and then it comes right off. Then we can set this aside. And we're ready to start pulling radiator stack out. These bolts down here, another place I cannot emphasize enough, impact driver. If you put a ratchet or a breaker bar on there, you're just gonna twist it a little bit and then this little mount under here starts flexing and the bolt or the nut doesn't wanna come off of the stud. Put the impact driver on there, it comes right off almost every time. Might have to hang on it a little bit, let it hammer a bit till it comes loose on yours if there's any rust there at all. But now before we get too crazy on this condenser, right? No, evaporator, condenser. This is the condenser on the outside of the van. Before we get too crazy on those fittings, let's make sure that this air conditioner system isn't charged. We're gonna find a little stick or a wrench and poke it in right here on the Schrader valve. Oh, sure enough. This system is charged, so we're going to keep it that way and not disconnect those pipes. Just going to swing this out of the way. Let's see here. Let's do this. We're not quite ready. Somebody's put some tie wraps here. Just gonna swing. Ta-da! Now that's out of the way so we can pull this engine out and not have Freon escape into the atmosphere. And when we're all done, we can swing that back into place. I'm gonna do the same thing with the power steering cooler. Loosen the 4 screws that hold it in, and then we're just gonna swing that out of the way. It usually has plenty of flex here, and then we can go over the top or swing it down. Yeah, kind of need both hands to do this. There we go. Try not to poke a hole in anything or break any pipes, hoses, and we'll get it up on top, like so. To release the radiator, we need to take these cooling lines from the transmission loose. 19mm or 3/4 inch SAE, and get them on there and give it a good pop. Oop, hard to do with the camera in one hand. If you just pull on that, it's going to want to strip or bend the aluminum. So give it a good snap like that, and then it comes loose. Same with the top. Give it a good snap, and it comes loose. Oops. Take note of where these little guys are, because as you can see, there is an extra hole, and a different radiator will fit there. If you're fitting the same radiator back in, you'll want to put these back in the same hole. Oh, the things we find, the curious things. What is that, do you suppose? Is that desperate claws of a short-armed critter? I think it is. Getting into it deep here, the motor mount behind the turbo, 18mm bolt. The other one over here by the fuel filter, 18mm bolt, and the ground strap. So we pull those loose. Got the intake from the fuel tank pulled loose. Return from the fuel system heading back to the tank is pulled loose. Now we've got to get that wire harness pulled loose from the other wires and ready to pull that out. And yeah, then we're almost there. Optional on the air conditioner system. This one we want to leave the air conditioner mounted. We know that's a good air conditioner pump coming out of a parts van, so we're going to leave that mounted to the engine, leave the belt intact. So we're evacuating all the Freon so we can pull this off. All right, so this electrical connector isn't going to pass through that firewall, so we're going to have to make it smaller. Take all the excess plastic off. First thing is get right under that edge there and pull this key out. Let's see, if it's tie wrapped, go ahead and cut the ties. And then we're going to snap that little M plate out. If it has an F on it, you're working on the wrong one. There we go, it just pops off. Now these, oh, they're still tie wrapped. Those come out. So, we're ready to lift out. I think everything is disconnected. Run a chain from this motor mount here to that one back there. Gonna hook my chain as far back as I can. I know that the engine will balance about right over the number 4 injector, which is all the way back here. So that's where we're gonna hook. This is where the fun starts, with a little bit of lifting and a whole lot of wiggling, and a little bit of lifting and a whole lot more wiggling. I find an extensive vocabulary is usually pretty useful, but for this video I've kept it pretty quiet. When you think you see the van lifting up a little bit, it's not. That's just my tripod is being tipped down because everything's sitting on plywood. And then I finally do what any other idiot probably would have done a couple hours ago. I asked for help. Between the couple of us, forgot about all the modern tools and went back to the old original stick and lever approach. which works pretty well, or at least better than those stupid little steel wheels on the bottom of my engine hoist. They don't roll very good on plywood. Imagine it'd be worse on sand.
If you like our content here at Florida Van Man, you can support us by liking, commenting, subscribing, and ringing the notification bell so that you get a notification every time we post a new video. In the description box of all of our videos, we also have links to our favorite products, as well as links so that you can get your very own Florida Van Man merch. Your support keeps our vans rolling.
Finally, we get the engine up and out of the van. Everything's safe. We've managed not to get under it, not to drop it on anybody. And it's ready to be put in a new van.